Ethan Walker was just a regular man. He lived alone in a small house near the edge of Earth's last green valley. He worked as a mechanic, fixing old machines that most people had forgotten. His life was simple, quiet, and a little lonely. Until one morning, something arrived that changed everything. It wasn't a package or a message from Earth. It was a small silver cube floating just outside his window. It hummed softly, glowing blue. Ethan opened the window and pulled it inside carefully. As soon as he touched it, the cube opened. A soft light came out, and then a hologram appeared. It was Zarak, the alien Ethan had once saved during a space accident 5 years ago. Zarak had been badly injured, stuck in the wreck of a merchant ship. Ethan had pulled him out, stopped the bleeding, and carried him to safety. After that, Zarak had disappeared, never said goodbye, never wrote back. Now the hologram of Zarak looked older. His voice was calm but serious. "Ethan Walker," Zarak said, "if you are seeing this, it means I am dead." Ethan's heart dropped. Dead? How? Why? "I owe you a life, but now I give you more." The message continued. "You are now the legal heir to all that I own: my home, my titles, my ships, and my wife." Ethan blinked, confused. "Wait, what?" he whispered. The message went on. "My culture demands that my fortune must go to the one I trust most. That is you. And as for my wife, she is not a prize. She is the guardian of everything I've built. Treat her with honor, or she will destroy you." The cube closed with a soft click. Ethan sat in silence. The sky outside remained quiet, like nothing had happened. But something big had happened. A loud knock broke the silence. A black ship had landed near his house. Tall, armored figures stood at his door. "Mr. Walker," one of them said, "we have come to escort you to Varnock Prime." He didn't understand most of what was happening. A tease, but something in him said to go. Zarak wouldn't send this message unless it was serious, and maybe he was tired of his quiet, boring life inside the ship. Everything felt cold and advanced. Lights moved along the walls, and the air smelled like metal and old fire. The journey took only a few hours. They used a jump gate Ethan had never even seen one before. When they arrived, he expected something grand, but Varnock Prime was dark. The planet below looked broken and forgotten. Huge structures sat in silence, half covered by sand and time. It was a graveyard, not a kingdom. "Where's the fortune?" Ethan asked the captain. The alien looked at him, her voice soft. "You will see," she said, "but first, you must meet the Empress." Ethan's heart beat faster. Empress? He was just a mechanic, not a ruler. The doors opened slowly, revealing a grand hall made of black stone and golden light. At the end of the hall stood a woman, tall, elegant, and glowing with alien beauty. Her silver eyes looked straight at Ethan like she already knew everything about him. "I am Alira," she said, her voice like a song made of ice. "My husband is dead, and now you wear his chain." Ethan swallowed hard. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "No," she replied, "but now we both have no choice." Her words hung in the air like a blade. This was not a gift. This was a burden. Ethan looked around the broken palace. He felt the weight of the silence, the stairs, and the history somewhere deep inside. He knew this was only the beginning. The letter from the stars had opened a door, and there was no turning back. The planet Varnock Prime looked dead from the sky, but when Ethan stepped out of the ship, he felt something strange in the air. The ground was dry and cracked. The wind carried whispers of a past that refused to disappear. Black towers stretched toward the sky, chipped and worn from war and time. They looked like old bones of a fallen giant. Beside him, the tall armored guards stood silent. One of them spoke at last. This was once the seat of the Zarak Dominion, 1,000 worlds answered to this place. Ethan frowned. All I see is dust. The guard didn't reply. They walked through a wide gate that led into a large stone corridor. The hall smelled of ash and metal. Ancient murals covered the wall, scenes of battles, treaties, and crowning ceremonies. Ethan recognized Xerox in one of them. Standing tall among hundreds of alien leaders, I had no idea he was this important, Ethan muttered. Xerox was more than a friend to you, said a new voice. Ethan turned and saw Alira walking down the steps of a ruined archway. She wore a long silver robe, and her hair shimmered like moonlight. She looked like royalty, but her eyes held the weight of sorrow. To us, Xerox was a king in exile, she said to me. He was a duty. Ethan didn't know what to say. Alira kept walking until she stood beside him. Then she turned and faced the ruined city. This was our empire, she said, and now it is yours. I don't want an empire, Ethan replied. I don't even know how to run one. She looked at him sharply. That doesn't matter, she said. The inheritance has been sealed. You are now the legal high heir of the Dominion, and you must take the throne within 7 planetary cycles. What happens if I don't? Ethan asked quietly. Alara's face hardened. Then everything collapses, she said. The other houses will fight for control. The Drexari will attack. And I will be given to another claimant, one who may not be as kind. Ethan took a step back. He felt trapped. He was just a mechanic, not a king. Why did Xerox choose him for this? What kind of friend leaves behind a ghost empire and a wife with sharp eyes and sharper words? Alira must have seen the fear in his face. She spoke more gently now. You saved Xerox's life once, she said. He trusted you more than anyone, and you have something no one else here does. What's that? He asked. Freedom from blood. She said, you're not part of their corrupt games, which means you might just save us. Ethan followed her into the royal chamber. Inside, giant columns held up a ceiling painted with stars. In the center was a throne knot made of gold butt of starship metal and glowing crystal. It didn't look like a seat of power. It looked like a control center. This is the command throne, Alira explained. It links to the Dominion Cora, living system that runs the entire empire. Is it working? Ethan asked, walking around it. It's sleeping, she said. Xerox shut it down before he fled, but now it listens only to you. A soft blue light began to glow beneath the floor as Ethan stepped closer. The throne pulsed. The ancient system was waking up, responding to him. Why me? He asked again, but this time to the room, the sky, the stars. No answer came. Only silence and the soft hum of something powerful coming back to life. Suddenly, alarms rang through the building. A guard rushed in, panting. High lady, a fleet approaches from the Drexari border. Ethan turned to Alira. Her eyes flared with fire. So they've come to claim the throne before it's sealed, she said. We must act now. I don't know how to fight, Ethan admitted. You? Don't have to, she said. Just sit on the throne and trust me. He hesitated. A broken city, an unwanted crown, and a wife he didn't know, and yet something inside him stirred. Maybe this was why Xerox chose him. Ethan stepped onto the platform. The throne opened with a hiss and folded around him. Like armor, his mind felt a pulse, if wires were connecting thoughts he didn't know he had. Suddenly, a screen lit up in front of him. Alira stood beside him, her voice calm. Welcome to your kingdom, she said. Let's remind the galaxy who we are. The throne felt alive beneath Ethan's hands. Soft lights moved along the surface, and the hum of ancient power echoed in his ears. But the real storm wasn't in the machines. It was standing next to him. Alira, the wife he had inherited, stood tall and still, her eyes hiding something deep. The command chamber pulsed with light, but Ethan could feel her gaze on him. He finally turned. You said I need to trust you. He said, but how can I do that if I know nothing about you? Alira tilted her head. I am Zarek's widow, she said, and now I am yours by law. That's not what I asked, Ethan replied. Who are you really? Alira was silent for a moment, then she nodded. Follow me, she said, and walked toward a hidden hallway behind the throne. The passage was narrow and cold. Ancient lights lit up as they walked. They stopped before a sealed door with glowing red symbols. This is the memory chamber, she said. Only blood-bonded royalty may enter. But I'm not royalty, Ethan said, confused. You are now. She answered and placed her hand on the lock. The door opened with a hiss. Inside was a large round room. The walls were covered with glowing images, each showing memories from the past. Zarek's life, wars, coronations, secret meetings. It was all stored here. But one corner of the room was different. The images showed Alira, but not as a queen. In one, she was a child, locked in a white lab. In another, she was being trained in combat by cold-looking machines. Then, a memory showed her being crowned not with joy, but as part of a contract, a trade. What is this? Ethan asked softly. My truth, Alira said, her voice distant. I was not born like others, she said. I was design-built by the high houses to become the perfect royal bride. Smart, strong, loyal land, bound to whoever claimed the throne. Ethan stepped back. So, you were made to be passed from one ruler to another. Yes, she said, looking straight at him. But I am no longer bound to their rules. What do you mean? When Zarok left, he changed the laws, she said. He made it so that I could only bond with someone outside their bloodlines. Someone like you. Ethan stared at her. Why would he do that? Because he wanted me to be free. She said quietly, but freedom in our world comes at a price. What kind of price? Ethan asked. Alira turned to the memory screen and pointed at a scene, a council chamber full of angry alien nobles. This, she said, the high houses will never accept you. They will challenge your right, your rule, and they will use me to do it. Use you how? They believe I am still their weapon, she said. They think they can control me, but they can't. Not anymore. Ethan walked closer to her. Then help me stop them, he said. Not because you were told to, but because you want to. For the first time, Alara's face softened. Her voice became gentle, almost unsure. I've never had a choice, she whispered. Every step of my life was programmed, trained, commanded. Until now, there was silence between them. Then Ethan asked, if I say no to all this, what happens to you? I'll be reassigned to another heir, probably Drexari-born, she said. And he will use the throne to conquer everything. Earth won't survive that kind of war. Ethan sighed and looked around the memory room. It wasn't just about fortune anymore. It was about doing the right thing. And maybe, just maybe, about saving someone who had never been given a chance to be human. You're not property, Ethan said. You're a person. Alira blinked, surprised by his words. No one had ever said that to her before, not even Zarek. She turned away quickly. But Ethan saw her wipe a single tear from her cheek. Then she faced him again, her voice steady. If we do this, Sif, we Bondu will see everything I've ever done, ever felt. There will be no secrets between us and you. Ethan asked, will you see mine too? She nodded. Everything? Then let's do it. Ethan said, let's make this real. Alira held out her hand as he took it. Light surrounded them. Their minds began to connect, memory to memory. Heart to heart, Ethan saw her pain, her battles, her strength, and Alira saw his kindness, his doubts, and his deep desire to protect. The bond was not just political. It was personal, it was honest, and in that moment, for the first time in her life, Alira was not someone's weapon. She was someone's choice. Asterisk, the stars above Varnak prime pulsed with strange energy, but deep below, in the heart of the ancient palace, Ethan and Alira stood still. Their bond had changed everything. Ethan could now feel her presence in his mind. Quiet strength, watching, listening, guiding. Alira, once cold and distant, now walked beside him, not as property, but as a partner, and just in time, an alert rang out through the command hall. The voice of an old AI echoed through the chamber. Unidentified fleet entering outer defense zone. 5 Dread-class vessels detected. Ethan turned to Alira. Drexari, he asked. Alira nodded slowly, her face calm, but her fists clenched. They move faster than expected, she said. They know the throne has awakened. Ethan sat on the command throne. He felt the system recognize his body, his thoughts. And now his connection to Alira, panels lit up across the walls. Holographic maps appeared in the air. He could see the enemy fleet closing in, like sharks circling a wounded whale. Should we send a warning? Ethan asked. We already did. Alira replied. Xerox warned them with his silence. Now it is time to answer with fire. Ethan had never led ships before, but through the bond, he felt knowledge flow into his mind. Alira's years of training, her tactical memory, her instincts, they were his now too, and still. His human mind brought something different, unpredictable, creative, and very dangerous. Let's give them a surprise, Ethan said with a grin. He raised his hand, and the palace trembled across the dead surface of the planet. Ancient hangars opened like iron mouths. From them rose black warships covered in dust and scars, but alive, weapons warmed up, shields powered on, and engines howled back to life. The Dominion fleet had returned. The Drexari fleet stopped, just beyond orbit. Ethan watched the enemy commander appear on the screen. The Drexari leader was tall, armored in bone-like plates. His face twisted with disgust. You are not one of us, the alien growled. You have no right to sit on that throne. Ethan stood calmly. I didn't ask for your permission, he said. I was chosen by a dead fool. The Drexari spat. And now you will die like him. The screen went black. Ethan turned to Alira. Let's show him why Xerox chose me. With a thought, Ethan activated the command protocols. A wave of power surged through the throne room. The fleet above Varnak moved into formation like anything the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years. The battle began in space. Light and metal clashed like thunder. The Drexari fired first streams of red plasma cutting through the dark. But the Dominion ships, though old, fought like beasts reborn. Their weapons were faster, their shields stronger, and their AI systems linked directly to Ethan's mind. He saw the enemy's moves before they made them, because Alira's instincts guided him, and his creativity confused them. The Drexari ships broke formation in panic. One exploded, then another. In less than 15 minutes, their dread fleet was reduced to scattered wrecks on the ground. The people of Varnaklong, hiding in fears, stepped outside to see the sky burn with victory for the first time in many years. They cheered. Their empire had not died. It had awakened, back in the throne room. Ethan felt the exhaustion settle into his body. His hands shook, but his eyes burned with purpose. You did it, Alira said softly. Standing beside him, no. Ethan said, we did it. He looked at her, and for a moment, the war faded away. He saw not just the warrior or the royal bond, but the woman behind it all. She smiled, barely, but it was real. There will be more enemies, she said. There always are. Then we fight them together, Ethan replied. Just then, a message arrived from one of the outer sectors. It was not from the Drexari, but from another old house. They wanted to negotiate. The tide had turned. Ethan stepped off the throne and walked toward the viewing deck. He looked up at the stars, no longer just lights in the sky. Now, They were. The borders of a kingdom he didn't ask for, but could no longer walk away from. A kingdom he would protect, not just for himself, but for her. And for the legacy of a friend who had trusted him when no one else did. The halls of the ancient palace felt different now. Guards walked with pride, not fear. The skies above Varnak Prime were quiet affirmed the great victory against the Drexery fleet. But deep inside the royal chambers, Ethan was restless. He sat on the edge of the throne platform, staring at the stars beyond the glass ceiling. Everything had changed so fast. Yesterday, he was a mechanic with a quiet life on Earth. Now, he was a ruler of a forgotten empire, bonded to a woman he barely understood. Alira entered the room silently, her steps soft like shadows. She stood beside him, watching the same stars. "You haven't spoken much since the battle," she said gently. Ethan turned to her slowly. "There's something I don't understand," he said, "not about the ships or the throne, but about you." Alira's expression didn't change, but she didn't walk away either. "You knew they were coming," Ethan said. "You knew the Drexari would test us. You knew how to control the throne, how to use the fleet. But you waited. You let me take the lead." "I had to," Alira said, her voice soft but steady. "If I had taken control, the people would have followed out of fear. If you led them, they'd follow with hope." Ethan shook his head. "You keep talking like this is some grand plan," he said. "But I feel like I'm just a piece in a game that started long before I arrived." Alira walked to a side panel and placed her hand on it. A wall opened, revealing a hidden room filled with glowing crystals and floating memory globes. "This is my chamber," she said, "the one place Xerox never entered." Ethan followed. Unsure what he was walking into, the room pulsed with gentle light. Images hovered in the images of Alira as a young girl training with blades. Studying alien law, standing in front of rows of soldiers. "This is your life?" Ethan asked, looking around. "This is my burden," she replied. "I wasn't just made to be a queen, Ethan. I was made to be the Empire's last weapon." Ethan turned to face her fully. "What do you mean?" "A Gyomanda to the throne," she said, "but not like you. My blood carries codes, genetic keys, and command layers no one else can access. I can start wars without pressing a button. Launch fleets with a whisper. Then why didn't you fight them yourself?" Ethan asked. Alira paused. "Because I'm tired of being a weapon," she said. "Xerox was the first to see me as more than that, and you were the first to treat me like a person." Ethan's voice was quiet. "Was the bond just a trick to activate the systems?" "No," she said firmly. "It was the only way to protect the core, but the bond is real. I felt your thoughts, your heart, your pain, and what did you feel?" he asked, almost afraid of the answer. Alira stepped closer. "I felt kindness," she said, "but I also felt emptiness." "You lost someone, didn't you?" Ethan nodded slowly. "My sister," he said, "years ago, during a border riot. She died in my arms." Alira didn't speak. She just reached out and took his hand. It was a small thing, but in a palace full of machines, weapons, and duty, it felt more powerful than a fleet of warships. "I never knew love," Alira said quietly. "Not real love, only orders, missions, protocols." "But you feel now," Ethan said. "I've seen it in you." "Yes," she whispered. "Because of you." They stood in silence, the lights of the chamber surrounding them like stars frozen in time. Then a deep sound echoed through the walls. A signal, low and urgent. Ethan and Alira rushed to the main hall. The throne pulsed with dark red light. A transmission appeared coded and fragmented. But clear enough, it was from one of the border worlds. An agent had found something, a hidden Drexery weapon lab buried inside an asteroid. And worse, they were creating something new, something terrible. Alira read the data with growing alarm. "This isn't just war," she said. This is extinction. What are they building? Ethan asked. She looked at him, eyes full of fear for the first time. A mind killer, she said. A virus that erases thought, entire populations, turned into obedient machines. Ethan clenched his fists. We have to stop them. Yes. Alira agreed. But this time, you won't just be a ruler. You'll be the face of defiance. And you? Ethan asked. I'll be what they fear most, she said. A wife who became more than a weapon. They stood side by side, two souls from different worlds, bonded not just by law, but by choice, and beyond the palace walls, stars trembled. Because something old was rising again. Not just a kingdom, but a queen who had found her truth. And a human who would not let it be stolen. The war room was quiet. But the tension inside could break steel. Ethan stood in front of a massive star. Map. Lines of red slowly spreading across the galaxy. Each red dot was a Drexery-controlled world. And in the center of it, all a single blinking mark. The hidden asteroid lab where the mind killer was being built. Alira stood beside him, her arms crossed, her eyes scanned the data like a soldier reading an old battlefield. This wasn't just another attack. It was a final move to wipe out free thought. To end rebellion before it began, they want to control everything. Ethan said, no free will, no resistance, just obedience. Yes, Alira replied. Her voice cold and sharp. They think fear is power. But they've never fought us, Ethan said with a quiet fire in his voice. He turned toward the fleet command console. He didn't need to touch it anymore. The throne systems responded to his thoughts now, because he was bonded not just to the machine but to her. Through the mind link, Ethan and Alira shared everything. Thoughts, reflexes, pain, purpose, and in the silence between them, there was understanding deeper than any words. The assault plan was simple, but dangerous. Send a stealth squad to breach the asteroid lab, disable the core before the virus could spread. If they failed, millions of lives would be turned into silent slaves. I should go, Ethan said suddenly. Alira turned to him, shocked. You're the ruler, she said. You command the fleet from here. They won't expect me on the front lines, Ethan said. They think I'm just some Earth-born outsider who inherited a crown. But I'm more than that now. He placed his hand on hers. I'm yours, he said, and we do this together. Alira's expression softened. You might not come back, she said quietly. Neither will the galaxy we know, if we fail, he replied, within hours. The stealth cruiser Shadowwind left Varnock Prime, Ethan, and a small team of elite fighters moved silently through space. Alira remained behind, connected through the bond, guiding him with every step inside the asteroid field. Everything was dark and quiet. No Drexori ships patrolled the zone. It was too silent. They know where. Coming. Alira whispered through the link. I can feel it. Ethan nodded. We keep going, he said. We end this. The Shadowwind slipped into a narrow gap in the asteroid belt. There it was, a massive Drexori lab hidden inside a hollow rock. The walls pulsed with green light, like a living creature waiting to strike. Ethan's team landed near an old docking bay as they entered the station. Alarms triggered. The Drexari were ready. Gunfire broke out. Ethan moved like a shadow. The training shared through Alira's mind, helping him dodge and strike. The soldiers beside him trusted him, even though he wasn't born for war, because he fought like someone who had nothing left to lose. Through the link, Alira sent him images of the layout, weak points, code bypasses. She was his eyes and ears. And something more. Her presence in his mind gave him strength. He didn't feel alone, not even when cornered, after long minutes of fighting through narrow halls and deadly traps. Ethan reached the core. Inside, a giant sphere of light floated above a pool of dark matter. This was the heart of the mind killer. The virus is ready. Alira said, panic in her voice. They've activated the countdown. Ethan ran too. The main console, fingers moving fast. He had no idea what half the symbols meant. But Alira guided him step by step. She had seen this system before. In old council meetings, in forbidden data vaults, you must overload the containment ring, she said. But you have to stay long enough to complete the shutdown, then get the others out. Ethan said to his second-in-command, I'll handle this, but sir, that's an order, Ethan said with a calm voice. He watched his team leave, then he placed his hand on the final switch. Pain surged through his body, the system fought back. It didn't want to die, but Alira was with him, her voice, her memories. Her strength flowed into him like fire. Together, they held on. The core cracked, lights flickered. The virus screamed through the systems, trying to escape. Then, silence. The virus was gone, the threat erased, and Ethan fell to the floor, unconscious, far away. On Varnak Prime, Alira collapsed too. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She had felt his pain, his fear, and then nothing, but deep inside the bond, one thought. Still echoed, I chose this. Silence filled the royal command chamber on Varnak Prime. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that grips the heart and refuses to let go. Lyra sat on the floor beside the throne, her hands shaking. Her connection to Ethan had gone dark. She had felt his pain, his fear, and his final thought, I chose this, and then nothing. The screen showed only static where the Shadow Wind's signal used to be. Advisor stood in a quiet circle, watching her, waiting for orders, but Alira didn't speak. For the first time in her life, she wasn't a queen, a weapon, or a symbol. She was a woman whose heart had finally learned how to feel. Now it felt broken. Then a spark appeared on the screen, a weak signal, flickering but alive. Emergency beacon detected, the AI announced, identified life form aboard escape pod. Alira stood so fast the others jumped. Track it, she ordered. Her voice cracked, but it was full of fire again. Bring him home. Within hours, a recovery ship returned to Varnak Prime, inside the escape pod. Ethan lay unconscious but breathing. His body was bruised. His hands burned, but his heartbeat was strong. Alira didn't wait. She ran to the medbay herself. As the doors opened, she stood over him, her hand shaking as she touched his cheek. His eyes opened slowly, at first, blurry and confused, but then they met hers. You came back, she whispered. Told you. Ethan murmured, his voice weak but smiling. We're in this together. Tears rolled down Alira's face, but she didn't hide them. Not this time. Ethan stayed in recovery for several days. During that time, messages came from every corner. Of the galaxy, allied planets sent envoys, lost colonies reconnected, and even old enemies began to talk of peace. But the most important visitor came quietly. An old advisor from Zirich's court. He bowed to Ethan and Alira, then placed a sealed box before them. This was meant for you, he said, from Zirich, before he died. Alira opened the box slowly. Inside was a simple recording crystal. Glowing with faint blue light, Ethan activated it, and the image of Zirich appeared. He looked tired, but peaceful. My friend, Zirich said, if you are hearing this, then my plan has worked. I am sorry I didn't tell you everything, but I needed someone who could lead, not with power, but with heart. He turned slightly in the recording, as if speaking to Alira now. And you, my queen. He said gently, you were never just a weapon. You were the soul of this empire, but no one let you be more. He looked back at Ethan. Together, you will be something the galaxy has never seen. A ruler born of Earth's fire, and a queen born of starlight. Protect her, Ethan, and let her protect you. The recording faded, and for a long moment, there was no sound, just the quiet hum of destiny settling into place. Later that week, A grand ceremony was held in the restored capital. Thousands gathered, aliens of all shapes and species. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Dominion had a ruling pair, not chosen by bloodlines, but by choice. Ethan wore no crown. He stood beside Alira in a simple black suit lined with silver, and Alira, radiant in ceremonial armor, held his hand for all to see. When Ethan stepped forward to speak, his voice echoed across the stars. "I didn't come here to rule," he said. "I came here because a friend trusted me. I stayed because a woman believed in me. And now I fight for this empire, not for its power, but for its people." The crowd roared with joy. And above them, fireworks lit up the sky in ancient patterns once thought lost. That night, in the quiet garden behind the palace, Ethan and Alira sat alone. The stars above were brighter than ever. A gentle breeze moved through the silver trees. "You were never part of the fortune," Ethan said softly. "You were the reason for it." Alira leaned her head on his shoulder. "I don't feel like a queen tonight," she whispered. "Then just be Alira," he replied. "That's more than enough for me," she smiled. "Eh?" Real smile, warm and free. No more pretending, no more orders. Just two souls who found each other in the wreckage of a dying empire. Together, they had rewritten fate. Together, they had turned war into peace. And together, they would lead a galaxy into a future no one saw coming. Not as ruler and weapon, but as husband and wife. Partners, equals, and above all human.